από σίγουρη πηγή το τι ακριβώς συμβαίνει στους BRICS. Λίγες χώρες μας τις έλεγε. Τώρα έχει όλες τις λίστες και τις περνάει φορά παρτίδα. Λοιπόν, ξεκινάμε με το πρώτο βίντεο. Thomas Rent's Charlie Ward.
A few days ago, obviously in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, sir.
Very good to see you. I've been looking forward to talking to you. If we start from the beginning, I was told 12 years ago that they were going to shut down the world's economy for a global financial reset. And then they told me 8 years ago. And then in November 19, they said they were going to do it in 2020. This came from a very high up source in the US diplomatic section. So it came from very good authority. Then in March of 2020, I started doing videos telling people that they were going to shut down the world's economy. I didn't quite know how. And then, of course, as the virus came out of Wuhan, I made contact with the diplomat. And he said to me, Charlie, we're going to use... I said, do you think you could shut down the world's economy with a virus? He said, Charlie, it's worse than that. It's not even real. And I went, what do you mean? And he said, it's just a complete cover story, but they've got the media on their side. And he said, they'll shut down the world's economy with using a virus. They'll back it up with a vaccine. They'll follow it up with 5G, then riots, and then alien invasion. He said, we've got it all planned. It's been planned for years. And so I started doing videos in March 2020. Went from 37 followers to 1,000 in a week, to 10,000 in a month, to 100,000 in 2 months, 250,000 in 3 months. And then they took me down on every single channel you could ever imagine. So I knew that this was all planned from the start. I didn't know the details. I found that over the term. And of course, you, Tom, are a lawyer. And you've been taking the legal path of challenging. I knew it in a theory, from a theoretical point of view, but it's a completely different ballgame when you have to challenge something legally. And that's where you've come in and done amazing work, amazing research. And
thank you.
From me personally, I'm very, very grateful, because I painted the canvas. It was a blank canvas. And now I've got people like you that are filling in all the facts, the hard facts that stand up in a court of law. And I think that's very, very important. So I'm really looking forward to this chat.
Well, thank you, Charlie. I got to tell you, guys like you and Alex Jones and people who've been talking for a lot of years about what, you're seeing and what you're thinking. It's amazing how many times the conspiracy theorists have been proven to be the conspiracy fact holders. I mean, it's just, it's an insane thing. So I'm looking forward to it too. I do get to see it, the Reawaken tours, and hearing again, and I've been looking forward to catching up.
Definitely. And I know I was reading some of your stuff about the vaccine and about the virus, and also the whole thing coming all the way through the process. There's so many different facets of this journey. And of course, when we come together at the Reawakening tours with Clay Clark, in fact, I'm on with Clay in 4 hours time. It puts all the pieces of the puzzle together. And I think Clay had something like 70 speakers, and it ranges from frontline nurses all the way through to General Michael Flynn and Eric Trump and yourself and myself and Mel Kay, and many, many spiritual leaders, many doctors, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, Dr. Judy Mikovits. There are so many people now that coming together, we're all individual pieces in a puzzle, but as we come together, we get a lot more clarity.
Yes, very, very much so. I've learned an immense amount from other speakers. And as you said, right, so I approach this as a lawyer, right? So there's what I think and what I can prove.
Correct.
And what I've found is that by opening my mind to new thinking, it's allowed me to examine evidence in ways where I've been able to facilitate finding new evidence and proving things that I wouldn't have otherwise expected. So I love hearing the diverse opinions and the diverse perspectives. And even before I can prove them, I like to hear it because it tells me what bush to rattle. You know, you shake the bush and watch the rats run out. You learn that by listening to other people. So it's a wonderful, wonderful deal. I love the Reawakening Tour.
It is, and the tour itself is amazing, and it's very you're absolutely spot on right about the ability to listen to somebody else's perspective. And I've often used the example, I overlook the Mediterranean here in Spain from my house. My view of the Mediterranean is my view. A diver 10 meters underwater can look at the same body of water and have a completely different view, and his view is accurate and so is mine.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
And it's learning to be able to listen to other people's perspective, not always agree with them, but understand where they're coming from. And it makes it an awful lot easier to get through the minefield that we're going through right now, because there's a lot of people see things very differently to us. But what we're seeing also with the left is the complete inability to actually hold a debate or a discussion. If you don't see it their way, they attack, they go crazy. And I think that's probably the biggest giveaway as to who is in the right position and who's not.
Yeah. Well, they've got to silence us, right? Because here's the thing. And Charlie, I think you know my story. I don't know, but I'm a nobody from a little town. I fought my way up and I built a platform. When I started fighting, I made a bet, right? What I bet was, because people say, well, you're going to try and get the word out. You're going to try and go to court. You're going to fight big pharma and big government and big this and big. How are you going to do that? You're just, some nobody from a little town. And I said, well, you're right. I am a nobody from a little town. But the bet that I made was this. The bet that I made was probably similar to the bet that you made. It was that if I told the truth and I stood behind what I said, that truth would resonate and that people, when they heard it, would open up their eyes. And the thing about it is it's worked. There's no reason for a guy like me to have been able to develop a platform and the reach that I've been able to develop in a few years, other than the fact that I just simply told the truth and people were hungry for it. Yeah. Hey, we've been slinging them though for a while, and they've been hitting. They've been hitting. The most important thing that's happening is that people are waking up, and I had someone that asked me the question the other day, and I actually try and pay attention now and then to social media. Mm-hmm. Someone said, well, you're a lawyer. Why are you doing, radio shows and TV shows and this, that, and other? I said, well, you got to understand something, because I'm a lawyer, right? So I know what I can do in the courts, and I know what the courts aren't going to deal with. And I know that sometimes to get anywhere in the court, we've got to make sure that the court hears the truth, not just from a small group of people, but from around the world. We have got to get the truth everywhere. I hope that when this show goes out, I hope when you push the show out, that it literally gets a 10 million views and goes everywhere, because we've got to wake people up. And I'll tell you one of the most infuriating things I've heard recently. I've been on a tirade about this. Someone said, I always get the question, what can I do? Right? Klaus Schwab is so powerful. Bill Gates, they're so big. When you say, what can I do? You've devalued yourself. You've devalued anything that you may add to the world. And you've essentially said that these guys, who are human excrement, I'm sorry, they're the lowest form of life on this planet. They're killing people. Mm-hmm. Are somehow more powerful, more capable than you. No, listen, God will have your back if you trust him and if you're willing to do something. But everybody, every single person on this planet can share this show, can share this message, can listen, and can remind others of what's going on. We, the people standing together, we, the free people of this planet, the Americans, the Spanish, the Brits, you name it, we, the free people of this planet, have the capacity to do what free people have done always, overthrow tyranny. Tyranny fears freedom, it fears truth, and the only thing we've got to do is keep spreading the truth, because the truth will set us free.
If you stand up to a bully, and this is what we're doing right now, we're standing up to bullies. Yep. The people you refer to are just bullies. But
Yes,
we're in the majority.
we are.
You know,
And we're right.
7 billion people against probably 10 million corrupt people, probably.
Yep.
So we're in the majority. We've got to take that and come together. This is what Clay Clark is doing with the Reawakening Tour, bringing us together. And if we come together, that's when they get scared. And I'll tell you right now, they are running scared at the moment. They are
I believe
petrified.
that.
The World Economic Forum, the Davos crew, the global elite, all these people, the politicians, the bankers. You imagine these people involved with the Epstein Island and Ghislaine Maxwell. They're in panic right now. And I'll tell you from experience, the fear is far greater now while they haven't been exposed, knowing it's coming, than when it actually comes. Because when it comes, they can start to deal with it.
Yep.
But at the moment, they know it's coming, and there's nothing they can do about it.
Nope. No, I agree with you. And it's really an interesting situation, right? So much of what we do is about driving conversation and shining light in dark corners. And that's the one thing they don't want. But what do you do if you're the bad guy? What do you do? Say, don't look here. Well, as soon as you say that, everybody looks here.
Sure.
And, what we have, and really a lot of my work has been based on finding different information, protecting whistleblowers, getting the work out. I mean, we filed all the lawsuits too, and we're still filing those. And that's critical, right?
Mm-hmm.
But getting that information and sharing it with people was a fundamental thing, because until we started really getting that out, there was no army. As people realize that they've been defrauded, lied to, and that all of this is part of a grand scheme to just destroy freedom globally, people say, hell no, you aren't doing this. I'm not taking another shot. I'm not using digital currency. I'm not going to submit to, censorship or other such things. I don't care if you try and shame me into not telling the truth. I'm still going to tell the truth. All these different tactics that they use break down when the light of truth is shined on them. When you realize that it's all manipulation, it's all to control us. And, it's so critical that we do that. That's why I say, have you heard me talk about lawfare, Charlie?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so when I was starting, and I'm strategizing, right? A lawyer's job in the American courts is we help the courts apply the law to a given set of facts, right? So we argue that the facts should be viewed, like you said, you can have two different views of the facts, but we argue the facts and we say the law should apply this way, and that's our role. The courts are not actually there to change laws. It does happen sometimes, but that's not what they're supposed to do in the American system. So the courts really are not the only mechanism to facilitate change. In the U.S. system, to facilitate change, you're generally looking more on the political side than the court side. So when people came to me and said, hey, these lockdowns, we got to fight them. And I prayed and I said, God, you want me? What it became real clear to me is that if I do what every lawyer would do, which is file a case and nothing else, it's over. Win or lose, it's over. We saw a case out in New Zealand early on. They had a major victory at the Supreme Court in New Zealand, and next day they passed new laws. So what was clear to me is that just going to court was not the battle. It's 1/3 of the battle. And so I kind of started talking about lawfare rather than law. And lawfare meaning, yes, we go to court and we fight those court cases where we can, but we also fight in the realm of public education and media, and also politically. We make it hard for politicians to do corrupt things. We shine the light of truth into their corruption. We educate the public about the truth so the public can do more, and we activate the people. Lawfare is all-encompassing, and one of the things that is crucial is that you recognize that to win, you can't just do it in the court. The courts are a 1/3 legal, political, public education. 1/3, not 1/2, not 60%, 1/3. And by the way, to my mind, let's not overlook what you and I are doing right now, which is another third. Equally as important to anything I'm doing in the courts is the conversation you and I are having. As we educate our people, as they say, hell no, you're not going to poison my child with another one of these jabs. No, I'm not going to stand by while my election is stolen. No, I'm not going to take this central bank digital currency. When people do that, it creates political pressure as well. So this becomes a very circular thing. All three prongs are 1/3. And so I fight from all three directions. And that's really been, if I've had any success in moving the ball down the field on COVID, on anything that I'm doing, it's been because I have not done what everybody else does. It's because I hit it everywhere in every way. And because, praise God, for people like you, people who have big audiences, and let me come on and talk about my little shows and my little work, it gets out and we educate the public. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful when people realize that there are more of you than you realize. We are the majority. We are right. We have the facts on our side. I can show you that in November of 2020, before the jabs were ever even authorized, the FDA put out a report that said, hey, we know it's going to cause myocarditis. We know it's going to cause pericarditis. We know it's going to cause thrombocytopenia. All this stuff was known before they were out. Did you see it on informed consent? No, you didn't. We can show that, but you know what? Only because guys like you have allowed me the opportunity to come on and share with your audience are people hearing it. So it's a combination of these things, and that's lawfare. And I'm eternally grateful to you and Mel and Clay and all the people that have allowed me the opportunity to do this.
Oh, we appreciate it as well, because I know from a bitter experience that we took the Spanish government to court about COVID-19 and the isolation of the virus, and it had never been isolated, and they lost the case. And then the next day, we were blocked from going public about it. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It was proved in the Supreme Court in Spain that they could not isolate it, so they could not prove that COVID-19 really existed. We also had as a backup plan the patent which Mel Kay found 2 years ago, the certification of vaccination identification 19 being AI. That came out of the Purbright Institute, was originally patented in 2015 and then updated in 2018. So they knew exactly what they were doing. The thing I find the most frustrating right now is they're being caught, and some people, when they get caught, hold their hands up. Not this bunch. They are blatantly lying and getting deeper and deeper and deeper in a hole. And I've watched a few little clips sent to me today of just blatant lies as they've been caught. Yeah. And then if they can't get out, we have the situation with Piers Morgan in the UK, where he was pushing the vaccine. Now he's changed his tune and he's looking for an amnesty. Well, hang on. You were insulting us for questioning. Forget about saying it was wrong. We were just questioning it. And you were calling us every name under the sun. Now you want an amnesty? And this is just how they are.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's kind of akin. So we had Damar Hamlin, the NFL football player in the United States. He went down in that play. And first thing I said within minutes, because I actually saw it, was I went on Twitter and I said, what's going on here? This looks like a vaccine injury. And people said, how can you ask that? You're so insensitive. And you know what? I've tripled down and I am asking everybody. And let me tell you why. You people had the audacity to tell me that you could ask me my vaccine status, my medical status, to go to a restaurant. To go to a sporting event. To go to my job. But now, when people are dying because of their vaccination status, you're going to tell me I can't ask the question because it's insensitive? Go to hell. I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask it we have a legitimate public health concern. There's a good reason to ask it now. There was no reason to ask it before, especially in light of the fact that Pfizer's admitted they didn't even test to see whether it stops transmission. There was no reason for you to ask that before. We knew from the beginning that this was garbage. that it was a poison, that it was no good, and we talked about it. But you still felt like you had the right to question us about our vaccine status. Now you're going to tell me I can't question you. And, this goes also, I'm sorry, I'm on a tirade. You get me all fired up on this one.
Good.
It also goes, these same people tell me I can't ask vaccine status, when someone dies, but they can shove it down my throat. These are the same people that are lying, like you said in video, and asking for amnesty, lying and asking for amnesty. The lies are because they know that Nuremberg 2.0 leaves them at the end of a rope.
Correct.
And the amnesty request is because some of these sellouts that couldn't wait to take Pfizer money to lie or Moderna money to lie to their broadcast media now want us to say, oh, it's okay, you just didn't know better. Bull crap. Your son, your daughter, your sister, your brother's dead or dying from myocarditis, pericarditis issues, blood clots, and you want me to say, oh, it's okay. Well, hey, let me ask you this question, Piers. Are you going to give back all the checks you got from pharma for lying for them? Are you going to give back all the checks? Are you going to speak out against your network? Are you going to report on the fact that they pushed you into lying? When you do that, we can talk about amnesty. But while you're still lying and still sitting on the big pot of gold that you made for murdering people, don't tell me about amnesty. I'm looking for justice.
I couldn't agree more. You and I are on exactly the same page as that, because I've got somebody very close to me that had a heart attack and was in hospital. And my first question was, were they vaccinated? And I was told, Dad, shut up.
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with that. And I said, well, the person you're talking about is a young person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that wouldn't normally happen.
Yeah,
so I'm just asking. All I'm doing is asking.
Yeah.
But you get hit by a complete barrage of, you can't ask that, you can't do this. But you and I are on exactly the same page. They were stopping people from going to weddings, funerals.
Yep.
And they were doing all these things. You couldn't go to the gym, you couldn't go to church, and you couldn't go to the supermarket without showing that you were vaccinated.
How about you can't get an organ transplant? How about that one? I had people come to me wanting to do lawsuits because hospitals were murdering them. They wouldn't give them a necessary organ transplant because they didn't want to take an experimental gene therapy jab that poisons you, and that we now are seeing more evidence come out, permanently alters your DNA. More evidence of that has just came out. We knew this. The scientific community will eventually catch up with all that I've shown based on evidence.
Yeah.
But until then, we knew. We knew.
It's also very interesting that this little get together in Davos, where they all traveled on private jets, a stipulation was that the captains and first officers must not be vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on their private jets that they flew so that they could tell us about climate change, right?
That's the one.
They flew their private jets to Davos to tell us about climate change before they got in their motorcades full of SUVs that were not electric vehicles to drive to Davos and then tell us about climate change. But in the meantime, they only flew with unvaccinated pilots because they didn't want their private jets that were spewing carbon emissions all over the place to crash and die because the pilot had a heart attack. The hypocrisy, the lies, the corruption, mind-blowing. Meanwhile, these same people, by the way, these wonderful folks who went to Davos, who are, lecturing us on morality and how we need to live our lives, drove up the price of prostitutes in Davos by 10 bazillion percent because they brought in so many hookers and kids for these perverts that they actually screwed up the demand curve. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's no shame.
There's no shame. It's been happening for years in the United Kingdom when the political parties have their conferences every year. All the hookers hit that town because they'll make an absolute fortune. And these are the people that are supposed to be representing the people, and there's nothing there representing the people at all. And we're seeing how disgusting these people are. And we need, and this is what you and I are doing. We're standing up against them. It's not easy. It's not easy. And as you rightly said at the start, I'm just Charlie. That's always been my motto. I'm not the Messiah. but what I will do is stand up for what's right. And the reason I can do it easily is because I lived in a world of bullshit and lies for most of my life. So I know what it looks like. I know what it smells like. And the truth sticks out like a sore thumb. So it's very easy for me to spot it.
Yep.
So, yeah, this is an amazing journey, and we're starting to see it all unravel. I got some fascinating news today, which is because obviously tomorrow's the 1st of February. And we all know my little forte, I'm going a bit off script here, but my little forte is the financial system and the collapse of the old system and the starting of the new. Well, the gold-backed new quantum system, the gold-backed side, has been used by BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
Right.
Now, that's half the world's population just in that group of 5.
Yeah.
But in the last month, Egypt, Afghanistan, Algeria, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Senegal, Thailand, the United Arab Emirates, Argentina, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Zimbabwe, and Iraq also joined those countries.
Yeah.
But we find out today that in addition to that, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Panama, Bolivia, Chile, Cuba, Ecuador, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, Azerbaijan, Mongolia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, and wait for the last one, Germany, have all applied to join BRICS. Now, if Germany joins BRICS, bye-bye Euro.
Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, and by the way, I don't know if you know this, Charlie, I spent a few years running a credit union, so I have banking experience.
Okay.
And I actually really do understand the global banking system pretty well. It's something that I spend a lot of time on. And the impact of the loss of the dollar as the national standard. I mean, that's something that people don't understand. And if you look at what's happening in the United States, this is a complicated thing that doesn't make for a great soundbite. But what's occurring is this: for the last 50 years, we've driven out our manufacturing sector. We've driven out everything but the service sector. The only thing we still have is service. We don't produce anything. We've got Joe Biden just made, I believe, 275,000 or so miles of land non-mineable. We don't produce our natural resources. And so we're reliant entirely on places like China and these other places to import everything that we need. Everything. We make nothing. So when you take that, that's bad. But when you combine that with the fact that the U.S. is no longer the reserve, the global reserve, we have no negotiating position. So what you're going to see is just even that without the money printing. You take the fact that we're printing money like drunken sailors out of the picture. That fact would drive inflation on a massive scale because there's no counter, right? We can't argue. We can't say, well, we'll just, do it ourselves. Well, how are we going to do it ourselves? We don't have a manufacturing base and we don't have any natural resource production anymore. We've outlawed it. It's not that we don't have it. We got plenty of natural resources and plenty of capacity to manufacture, but Joe Biden and his idiots on the left have made that impossible to do. So basically, we're manufacturing a complete financial collapse of the United States, eliminating the dollar as a global reserve, and instead empowering these globalists and these global banking systems to manage money on a global scale. Now, this isn't conspiracy theory. This is stuff, and I'm happy to talk about, and I always distinguish between what I can prove and what I can't. I can show you, this is basic economics, this is basic banking, this is basic macro. I mean, this isn't stuff that's I'm speculating about. You can just see it. I mean, it's just there. So you just got to know how to look at it and understand how macroeconomics work and how, it interplays on with local economies. But no question, this has been a very strategic move. The only thing that I'm not sure about, Charlie, and I'd love for you to educate me if you got any insight on it, is to me, it looks like there's a fight, a frenemy situation between the globalists and the CCP.
Mhm.
I don't think that they like each other, but they all hate America.
Mhm.
And I think that they've worked with each other to an extent to try and eliminate America. But I'm wondering, I haven't got any hard evidence, and I'm curious as to where people think it's going to go between them, because they're both in the end looking to have all the power with them. They're not going to
Mhm.
share it well. So how does that end up going?
Well, I have to be very careful what I say because I'm under an NDA, a military NDA.
Okay.
Because I'm working on the new financial system. And I do know, because I've done an awful lot, around 15,000 hours of research, and I have direct access to some extremely powerful people. I do know that there's a group of people, some people say there's around 8,000 of them, that are generally regarded as the good guys, which were headed up by four men: Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, Xi Jinping. Now, I do know with Xi Jinping and China, he has flipped sides from the CCP. And the reason I know that is I have close personal ties to the senior family in China and have done for 30 years. I know the family personally. I have dinner with them on regular occasions. I know the family. And they have the Chinese elders have sat very, very quietly for many years and watched the CCP mess up their country. But they've sat there patiently. They're the elders are very, very typically Chinese. They've waited their time. And that time has come. The old CCP, at the moment, we're going through very much a pantomime. The old CCP is being dismantled along with the Illuminati, the deep state, the cabal, whatever you want to call it. They're all being dismantled brick by brick. And by basically these four people and an army of good people. In recent months, in the last 2 months, they've just been joined by the Ayatollah of Iran and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who are now also fighting with them. And you can bet a penny to a pound that if the Ayatollah of Iran has joined, then little Rocket Man from North Korea has joined them as well, because he's very keen to have nothing to do with the Rothschilds and Rockefellers banking system. That's what they've stood up against for years. So at the moment, we're in a very interesting phase. As I started this journey, I was completely unaware. I was told that there was a financial reset. I didn't know there was two in play. There was a good one and a bad one. The bad one is run by the New World Order, the World Economic Forum. The good one is run by the good guys, and they've made them look the same. They've made them look very much the same. The quantum financial system and the central bank digital currency from the outside are made to look very much the same. The big difference between the quantum financial system and the central bank digital currency, the central bank digital currency is not backed by anything. It's basically the fiat system without money, and it's a very dangerous system because they have you're giving all the control to the governments and to the big tech and big business. The quantum financial system is asset backed, and I say asset backed against gold backed because the UK, funnily enough, has also joined BRICS, but they're going to back their assets with silver, sterling silver. Iran, Iraq, Syria, Libya are going to back theirs with oil. Zimbabwe is going to back theirs with diamonds. They have to be asset backed. And we're starting to see that now with BRICS. Every single one of those countries is asset backed. So BRICS, the only people left that would be interested in BRICS would be the Americans and the Europeans. The rest of the world have already gone asset backed. And we're trying to wake up the Europeans and the Americans and say, it's your choice. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to go with the central bank digital currency, which they control everything, and you'll just be enslaved for the rest of your life? This is why General Flynn is so strong about saying to people, you've got to take down this central bank digital currency. You've got to reject it. Because if you don't, you're going to get stuck with them.
Yeah.
But the rest of the world will be set free because they won't be tied to the US dollar, and the gold-backed American currency will be the USN, the US note, and there will be rainbow currency. For those people, there will be a complete restructure. For those people in America who choose to go with the quantum financial system, the asset-backed system, will live in a parallel universe. People will be trapped if they don't make a decision. If they sit there and do nothing, there is no fence to sit on. You'll fall on the side of evil, and you will remain a slave. So the choice is there. And General Flynn is very, very strong about this. Get off your backside and fight. Stand up for your rights. They're God-given, but they have to be fought for.
Yeah.
So that's basically a little bit about, without saying too much, it gives an oversight of the two systems that are out there. It comes down to the individuals to choose which one they want to be a part of. I know which one I'm going to be a part of.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not doing. What I'm not doing is I'm not participating in any central bank digital currencies. That's just not happening. We're actually, it's funny, Charlie, because, I look around and my house is in this little town in Ohio. I'm certainly not overlooking the Mediterranean, although I do have a nice enough yard.
Yeah.
I had a conversation this morning, and we're doing some work on developing an alternative financial and healthcare system, and seeing whether or not that's going to be feasible and these sorts of things. Like I said, I got the banking background and I do all my legal work with the healthcare. So we're talking to, some wonderful people on that. And, essentially what this comes down to in my mind is we the people have to have the capacity to barter. Mm-hmm. We have to have the capacity to control our health. Mm-hmm. We've got to have the capacity to ensure that we've got our essentials, food, energy, things like that. But if we look at the actual war on freedom, the war started with a fear pandemic from COVID. Mm-hmm. And that fear pandemic facilitated the death jabs. Mm-hmm. It also facilitated the election steal of 2020. Mm-hmm. It facilitated ramped up censorship. I mean, it gave them a reason to say, well, we can't have vaccine hesitancy. We got to cover this up, right? We got to shut these people up. And people, they didn't complain as much as they should have. Mm-hmm. And so this has been used to facilitate all of these different things. Meanwhile, we have Schwab and Harari and all these little weenies at the World Economic Forum telling us, openly bragging about it. They remind me of serial killers. Serial mm-hmm. killers always have to tell everybody how many people have died, how many people they've killed. These guys are out there bragging about, the COVID, it gives us a good reason to put surveillance under the skin. It gives us a good reason to reset everything, to put gene therapies into people and to change their genetics. They're bragging about it. Mm-hmm. And yet we still have people who are not awake to it, which is, also goes back to why we do lawfare, not law. We got to wake them up. So, I appreciated your analysis on the systems. I can certainly tell you that anything that's not asset backed is going to be a little bit ugly because it's really meaningless. So, I mean, I never thought I would be a gold guy, but I am at this point. Gold it's not an investment that you day trade. No. You're either in it or you're not. And if you're in it, it's good over time, every time. It's just, but I mean, this is how much things have changed. Mm-hmm. When I started, you go back 3 years, I thought anti-vaxxers were crazy. Mm-hmm. I remember my dad telling me growing up, hey, you ought to keep a little gold and silver around. Why, Dad? Why the heck would I want to do that? Now, you fast forward, I'm, running the pack in the anti-vax world. I just listed, because we do tomrenz.com, and that's where I got my different sponsors and things like that, and my social media and my Substack, and then we do our radio shows. And I just listed on there, we got Sorcini, who from the Reawakening tour, yep. Is my gold guy. Mm-hmm. And I'm selling gold. And the thing is, I won't sell something if I don't think it's, a good product. But it's like, I realized that Dad's wisdom was correct. Just having something that's physically there that can't be, because especially if we go to a digital currency, a digital currency just means that they can turn it off. They can hit delete. They can use a key. But if I got a piece of something in my hand, you got to physically take that. And it's so, so important. So I'm a big fan of it. I've really become a fan.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely. I can proudly say that I am an anti-vaxxer for one simple reason. I've never, ever had a vaccine of any kind.
Well, I'm envious. I didn't know. I had to, I'll be the first one to admit, this has been a red pill situation for me.
Yeah.
I was very mainstream on a lot of things. I mean, I was always very much a patriot and a conservative and a God guy, but I just had no reason to ever question vaccines. I was dead wrong. I didn't get the COVID. I will never get the COVID, neither will my family. But, up to that, I didn't know. I mean, I'd travel, I'd go in somewhere where there's, going to be in the jungle. They said, well, you need this then. Okay, so just stick it in me. Get another one. I mean, I'm probably so full of mercury and aluminum and other nonsense. Explains my mental problems, right?
Tom, it's been a real pleasure. And I'd love to have you back on again to get your message out to my audience, because your message is very, very good. And it's always backed, as General Flynn would always say, back it by facts. Show me the evidence, and this is what you've been doing. And I really appreciate the work that you've done. And thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Well, it's mutual. I hope people share the heck out of this show. This was fun, and I really enjoyed it, Charlie. So I'd love to come back again.
I'd love to have you back, Tom. We'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.